Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. With the cruise ship sector scheduled to welcome its first vessels in mid-July, many within the tourism industry are expressing excitement as they look forward to returning to some level of normalcy. The president of the Craft and Dry Goods Vendors Association, however, says while meetings have been held, no conclusion has been reached as to the fate of vendors in the arcade and craft market. He says many promises are being made, but no efforts are being made to bring them to fruition. Genevieve Gonzague has more.
Come July 2021, St. Lucia will welcome its first international cruise ship since the pandemic. The tourism sector was one of the hardest hit during the peak of the pandemic, and with it came the collapse of many other subsectors which relied on tourism to thrive. The president of the Dry Goods Vendors Association, Peter Ras-Iper Isaac, says the reintroduction of the cruise sector is more than welcomed news for vendors in the craft market and the Castries Arcade. However, there are many concerns that have not been addressed by the relevant authorities.
And that would be something that is very good for St. Lucia and also for people who depend, who are very dependent on this particular sector. But what is really, puzzling to me is that nothing has really been done in terms of the preparation for the markets, the vendors, arcade, the craft market, and so on. And I'm just asking myself, why, we have a ship, maybe by the 16th of this month, we have our first ship berthing in our harbor, and we haven't had no kind of preparation, to certify these markets so as to, welcome cruise visitors. Are we out of the loop? We're hearing that other areas have been well organized, well prepared, and have been certified.
He says there have been meetings with the CCC, the Ministry of Tourism, Health, and the Command Center. However, to date, there has been no response as to what protocol or what will be put in place to ensure the smooth reintroduction of tourists into the berthing ports.
We had made it abundantly clear that we are not in the position in any way to establish any kind of protocol. In the initial stage, we would expect that the Authority City Council or the Command Center or the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Health would come and in the initial stage set something up with us or for us. And then afterwards, maybe it would be some responsibility will be left upon us after people have made some money. Because as you know, it's a whole year and more. It's about 15 months we haven't done, or we haven't driven a stroke. No money is not coming in our way.
Isaac says as the time draws nearer, members of the association are extremely anxious as to what the reopening of the sector will hold.
We really want to know where we are. We had a discussion with the Ministry of Tourism last week about some things, but they're saying to us they are not the ones who are responsible to doing all this certification and the establishment of all the protocols. It is really the Ministry of Health. By that time, boats are already coming in, and the vendors arcade, the craft market, and the other areas are not certified as COVID certified, so people could come in there. And they're already saying that if you're not certified, they will not encourage tourists to come there. Okay. The other thing is they're saying that that while tourists are in the vendors arcade or in any of these markets, including Point Seraphine, local people will not be allowed to visit, and all these kind of things we are hearing. So we are lost in terms of this whole thing.
He says vendors wait with bated breath to hear what measures will be put in place for the reopening of the craft market and the arcade. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
Over the past few weeks, many businesses have been burglarized. The latest occurred at Peter & Company Distribution at the SNS Plaza Friday. A sergeant of police and a self-dubbed cop who cares says it is imperative for business owners to take it up a notch when it comes to safeguarding their property and their employees.
On Friday evening, Peter & Company Distribution in the SNS Plaza at Bois d'Orange was burglarized. This robbery follows a string of robberies, including the brazen daylight robbery of Hair to Their Courier Services, a pet store, and a business in Cul-de-sac. Most of the robberies have either been captured on CCTV or occurred in the full view of customers. One observation from the latest incidents is that very few of the businesses that have been robbed have security guards. Sergeant of Police and Corp Who Cares, Siobhan Matthew, says in the current climate, businesses need to invest in having armed security guards.
There are benefits in having an armed guard, or should I say an armed security guard, or even having an off-duty police officer, doing security for you. All right, having an armed guard creates a higher sense of security. Having security guards at your company will definitely make any robber think twice about trying to rob you. All right. Having armed guards also in like surveillance. All right, armed guards are always vigilant. Well, should I say they're supposed to be vigilant, and they're able to spot crime or persons looking around. All right, an armed guard serves as the first line of defense. Armed security officers have been known to supplement law enforcement agencies. And in case of invasion of a robbery, they know exactly what they can do to safely apprehend a culprit. That's if they are well trained.
Matthew cautions owners, staff, and customers not to tackle robbers if they are unable to defend themselves, as it is better to lose a few materialistic things than one's life.
I believe that CCTV cameras is a good help, not only on the inside of the establishment, but also on the outside of that business space. When it comes to your employees, sometimes it's always good as an employee, to remain calm during a robbery. All right, cooperate with the robbers and be very, very, very observant. Because anything that you could give the police could assist in the investigation of that report. Now, always remember that when those persons come to rob, they seldom come to hurt persons unless there is some sort of resistance. Most times, more than 90% of the time, they only come for the monies, the daily earnings. That's basically what they come for, and they quickly get out.
He calls for stiffer penalties for such offences to deter individuals from getting involved in such crimes.
If you notice, there is an increase in the robberies. On a daily basis, there are always reports of persons' bags being snatched from them. It's always good to get training when it comes to self-defense, right? How to protect yourself against a robber, all right? But I believe to curb this situation, it takes a holistic approach. All right, the laws need to be changed. I believe that the sentencing or the penalty for robbery should be really increased. Understand? Because we have a lot of robberies going around. A lot of persons get hurt innocently from these robberies. Imagine you go into a store to just purchase an item and somebody comes in to rob it, and you get injured innocently. I mean, like, something needs to be done.
Matthew says there is also need for members of the public and not solely those affected to come together to find ways of tackling crime. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzalez.
National Security Minister Senator Hermangild Francis says law enforcement needs to get smarter than criminals if St. Lucia is to see a dent in the level of crime committed. He says the use of technology and the pulling of outside resources may be what is needed if the country is to see a needed reduction in criminal activity.
There seems to be no letting up of criminal activity in St. Lucia. From homicides, burglaries, robberies, and the like, the criminals are getting smarter. It has been thought that even the tactics used to alert regular civilians of the presence of police may be helping criminals to conduct their business. But National Security Minister Hermangild Francis believes that police officers should take a page from the criminals' books and stop them dead in their tracks. He cites an app which has proved successful in Colombia.
A lady is living at home and she has to go to a particular area. So she puts the app on Follow Me. She presses the app on the phone, Follow Me, and the phone would show when she leaves home, and when she gets to her destination, it will give you an alert that she actually got there. So along that way, if she doesn't turn up within a specific time, the normal time that she takes, then something would come up to her friends' phones or the police and so on, and they would recognize that something is wrong with this individual. And they can move based on the GPS that is there. They can know exactly what area to go and check.
The minister says that a last resort may be to pull resources from neighboring islands to carry out the work that resident officers may shy away from, as they may fear criminals targeting their family members. This is where he says a regional police force comes in.
We envisage the regional police forces that all the OECS countries would send police officers to that force. They would be trained in forensic, trained in trace evidence, in everything necessary. But if something happens in St. Lucia and we need police officers to come, as persons are now saying that we have a upscaling in criminal activities, then we go to whoever is the director of that squad and we ask them for a number of police officers to come in. Okay, they will come in, but they're not going to be St. Lucians, they're going to be either Vincentians, Grenadians, Dominicans, Antiguans, and so on. They would come here for a specific time, do what he has to do, and then leave. St. Kitts has used our police officers on the RSS in that regard. St. Kitts crime was really high, and the RSS did deploy persons with St. Lucians there, and it brought it down. Now in St. Kitts, the crime has gone way down.
Francis maintains that the assistance of the public is needed to fight crime. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reports.
The director of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, is sending out a message to residents reminding them to be prepared always for the hurricane season. NEMO Director Doreen Gustave gives assurance that despite the present threat of COVID-19, new protocols have been established to protect those seeking shelter in the event of a disaster. After a record-breaking Atlantic hurricane season in 2020, it appears likely that 2021 is in for the 6th consecutive above-average year. First predictions have been released, and the message is straightforward. The 2021 Atlantic hurricane season, which officially began on the 1st of June and runs through November, will be dangerous and very active. Doreen Gustave is the director of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO. She underscores that the island's level of preparedness is determined by the level of preparation of its people at a household level.
Like I always say, NEMO is as ready as the individuals on the ground. So everyone needs to be ready. So we appeal to every resident to ensure that you make your personal preparation. As a family, you put your plans together. You have the necessary items that you need. So you have, like we say, you secure all your documents. You have food supply for at least 2 weeks, especially during the hurricane season. You have the food supply that will last you at least 2 weeks. That you discuss your plans with your family.
At NEMO's level, however, Gustave says nothing is being left to chance. She says whilst NEMO is always ready, the organization is still working on staying in top form through continuous training and upgrades.
We have procured radio and radio equipment to upgrade our, to enhance our response, our connectivity to the various communities. We have our district disaster committees, and all our district disaster committees are equipped with VHF radios. We do a regular test on a Friday. Every Friday, we do a test of those radios. We have equipped those communities that are so secluded.
Recently, the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, called on national and local authorities in countries at risk for hurricanes to prepare for the season. The organization warned that COVID-19 and the potential devastation of high winds and flooding make preparation even more critical than usual. Gustave says St. Lucia is dotting its I's and crossing its T's.
First of all, we had to identify shelters, and we had to ensure that we know the capacity of each shelter. So that we have done. Based on our protocol, persons coming into a shelter, there will be an intake. We'll do the screening of those persons. The forms will be completed. We have also in an isolation room that has been identified in the shelters for if persons who are coming in present with any of the symptoms for COVID, so we would be able to isolate them and do the test to ensure that they, are not COVID positive. And if they are, we have measures in place to transporting them to the necessary facilities.
Shelters have also been designated with sanitizing teams alongside security and health teams. The shelter list, NEMO's shelter list, can be found at the website nemo.govt.lc. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. There's more news after the break.